And really highlighting the fact here, too, guys, that we have 6 exclusive picks from NXT being drafted out of Raw and SmackDown. Baron Corbin, I believe, is going to SmackDown. We have Nia Jax, the strongest woman on NXT's roster, being drafted for the women's division on Raw. Really looking forward to Nia Jax taking out the power of Charlotte in her reign as women's champion. Also, Dana Brooke throwing in there. Sasha Banks, really big fan of Sasha Banks going to Raw because now the intensification of the feud between Charlotte and Sasha Banks will be looked at. And again, talking about those exclusive rivalries drafted exclusively to either Raw or SmackDown, Charlotte versus Sasha Banks is a rivalry that was drafted exclusively to Raw with, of course, Dana Brooke being thrown in there. How did you feel about all these rivalries being drafted exclusively to either show? That's a really good question because I know that there was probably a mixed reaction coming from wrestling fans when it comes to, these respective shows having these respective feuds. Would you rather see more interpromotional rivalries? Are you expecting to see an interpromotional war happening between the shows? Because Mick Foley said something really interesting on the night before the draft, the eve of the draft, if you would. He said that, this kind of puts him in mind of the Monday Night War going on between WWE and WCW for over 86 weeks before WWE bought them out after WCW was dominated for several weeks. And then WWE began to gain momentum, and they eventually won the war. I think that this will put wrestling fans in mind of the Monday Night War, but I also think this was done because Vince McMahon himself is truly misses the competition that he was given from World Championship Wrestling. And I think all the McMahons, I think everybody in WWE misses the competition aspect of it all. And this is why it was put off for years, and why people said, in the feud between Stephanie and Shane, with Shane's return, we were going to see the brand extension. This was being talked about for months. Obviously, they had a plan ever since, long before 2016 came in. But you have to look at, people can criticize this choice of having the draft happen so many years too late. But the thing is, at least this creates opportunity for people like Baron Corbin, Nia Jax, the Alpha Americans. There are so many opportunities going to be created from this draft. The same kind of logic applied years ago when someone like Edge was drafted to either Raw or SmackDown. I mean, Edge would have never became the mega superstar that he eventually became if not for the draft. The Undertaker said that himself, and many others backed up The Undertaker with that claim. If not for the draft years ago, over 15 years ago, 14 through 15 years, names like Edge would have never been given the opportunity, and that same kind of logic applies to talking about superstars like Baron Corbin and Darren Young. Making Darren Young great again in the mind of Bob Backlund. I appreciate that, but would this be happening if we didn't see this brand extension happening when it has in the fallout of WrestleMania? So it is the time for opportunity, and it is time, I'm hoping, for people to realize that and to take full advantage of it. John Cena and Randy Orton being drafted to SmackDown is one way of looking at it. Big picks for SmackDown and for Shane and Daniel to really make a gamble on. But look at all the great picks they have gotten besides drafting the majority of the champions. They got Baron Corbin. They got the Alpha Americans. They got Becky Lynch. They got Natalia. They got great picks that they can do something with and create storylines with. And this is one of the biggest purposes of the draft, is the fact that we are going to see more storylines created because of the draft. Storylines that we probably wouldn't have never seen created if not for this draft. I'm expecting ratings to boost. I'm expecting subscribers of the network to go up. I'm expecting the numbers on social media to literally explode. There are so many different ways of looking at it, but they are all ways of how WWE are going to benefit and really not downfall. Now, there is that slight chance of the ratings decreasing for a specific show because obviously people will favor Raw over SmackDown. People will favor SmackDown over Raw, and probably there'll be the fan that will favor NXT over Raw and SmackDown, and that wouldn't surprise me none too with the overflow of talent that NXT still has that has not been drafted. Now, of course, there were 30 additional picks made on WWE.com and the network with Draft Center Live. And for all the information, as I just said here earlier, you can go to WWE.com/draft. All the information is on there. And wrestling news websites, including this one, ProWrestling.com.net, have exclusive coverage of the draft. 30 additional picks being made. I would assume 15 for each show. The respective brands. The times have changed, and the WWE obviously are changing with the times, and I really appreciate that. I also appreciate the opinions coming from wrestlers that were on social media throughout the whole night, even Triple H, who we haven't seen since the fall of the WrestleMania. He wished everybody the best of luck in the draft, and he was wishing, of course, that the draft had benefited all of us. I found that very interesting from Triple H's comments to be highlighted. Also, if you were watching the draft, one thing that really jumped at me was the commentary. Opinions of people like John Cena, Brock Lesnar, The Undertaker, Roman Reigns' return obviously influenced on. I was really hoping he was going to return for either one of the two championship matches that we saw. That didn't happen. Why it didn't happen, I don't know. Obviously, they're going full throttle with the full 30-day suspension, and we will not see Reigns until the main event of Battleground. Wouldn't surprise me not if we didn't see a promo or an interview prior to Reigns returning. He'll probably just come out in the match, work the match, and then we'll see either a champion crowned in either Seth Rollins or Dean Ambrose. What it will come down to is the conclusion of the Battleground pay-per-view to determine what brand has supremacy in control of the championship. Who will be champion, Dean Ambrose or Seth Rollins? It's a toss-up there, expecting Reigns to get on the back burner, even though there's a great deal of influence. What we're going to see from the fall of the Battleground is a lot of push towards the draft, a lot of emphasis on the draft, and more creating in the way of storylines, more so than the push of Reigns in his third reign as champion. 1 to 2 reigns for Reigns as champion. See what I did there, saying Reigns twice. 1 to 2 reigns for him is enough. He's very boring. He's not the best on the microphone. He's not someone that's very easy to like in the way of more so the Dean Ambrose. I was more of a fan of Dean Ambrose when I first thought of him as champion. I said, this is has been a long time coming, just as I thought the push of AJ Styles was a long time coming. That's something big from the draft, the pushes of AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose. If anything happens in this triple threat match, we're either going to see Dean Ambrose or Seth Rollins win. Reigns pretty much on the back burner, but, it wouldn't surprise me if Seth Rollins did escape Battleground and walked into Raw the following night as champion, and then, of course, Raw gloated because they took the title. I'm also expecting a lot of, feuding going on, a lot of brand warfare going on, and a lot of interpromotional matches happening between now and, say, next year through WrestleMania 33. It's going to be a fun time for wrestling fans. All in all, it wasn't the best draft or draft lottery that I have seen in years. 15 years ago, I preferred what happened 14, 15 years ago with names like Brock Lesnar, Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, Triple H, Kurt Angle, all being exclusive to the draft. This year, we had a lot of star power, but not enough star power, in my opinion. There could have been more. It seemed like the majority of the emphasis lied on the NXT stars because we're expecting big debuts and premieres from the draft this year. Of course, from NXT, we're seeing Nia Jax coming into the women's division. What kind of influence she will have? The premiere of the Cruiserweight division, given the success of Cruiserweight Classic on the WWE Network. I don't think this was a last-minute decision or choice for Raw to have made or WWE to have made as a company, as a brand. I think they pretty much had that planned, and they just used, the success of Cruiserweight Classic on the network as an excuse to bring back the Cruiserweight division. Huge applause for the choice to bring back the Cruiserweight division, because this has been put on hiatus for years, with the last Cruiserweight champion having been Hornswoggle, nothing done with the division after, and just killing the whole idea of the Cruiserweights. I think this is going to really boost the ratings and the morale of WWE, just as I think that John Cena and Randy Orton being exclusive to SmackDown for the first time in years, where they started their career, is going to be really, really big for SmackDown. I think the Cruiserweight division and Randy Orton and John Cena being exclusive to Raw, for SmackDown, where they started their careers, going to be huge influences on the morale and the ratings, and you can check that out. That's going to be something huge for John Cena and Randy Orton. Who are the two do I think you can rely on more? Obviously, you can rely on Randy Orton more because, of course, he's not the name of the face of WWE. He's one of the probably top 5 names of WWE that, of course, is the name of the face. But with John Cena having responsibilities lying outside of WWE, obviously Randy Orton will come through for SmackDown probably just as The Miz will as Intercontinental Champion. Taking a look at the Battleground card this year, there is a lot of ways this can go, and the complexity of WWE can change. For instance, Dean Ambrose may be champion now, but will he be champion after the fall of the Battleground this Sunday? We'll be looking at a new champion in Seth Rollins, and even the possibility of Roman Reigns, as much as I'm not a fan of it, as being champion. There are a lot of ways it can go, and probably Raw will find a way of escaping Battleground, the first pay-per-view since the fallout of the brand extension, as champion. There are a lot of ways it can go, and I'm really excited about it. And I think that wrestling fans have a reason more so than ever before to be a fan of wrestling. If you didn't have a reason to be a fan of wrestling,